The UEFA Champions League, known until 1992 as the European Champion Clubs Cup or colloquially as the European Cup, is an annual association football cup competition organized by UEFA since 1955. Originally a straight knockout competition open only to champion clubs, the tournament was expanded during the 1990s to incorporate a round-robin group phase and more teams. The expansion resulted in more games being played, increasing players' goal-scoring chances, thus the rankings are weighted in favor of modern players. Only 7 out of the 51 players on the list never competed in the reformed Champions League. With 140 goals, Cristiano Ronaldo is currently the all-time top goalscorer, while his career rival Lionel Messi is the only other player to surpass 100 goals. Ronaldo and Messi have also won the Golden Boot on the most occasions in the competition's history, with 7 and 6 respectively. History. The first time the champions of 2 European leagues met was in what was nicknamed the 1895 World Championship, when English champions Sunderland beat Scottish champions Hearts 5-3. The first pan-European tournament was the Challenge Cup, a competition between clubs in the Austro-Hungarian Empire. 3 years later, in 1900, the champions of Belgium, Netherlands, and Switzerland, which were the only existing leagues in continental Europe at the time, participated in the Coupe van der Straeten Panthers, thus being dubbed as the Club Championship of the Continent by the local newspapers. The Mitropa Cup, a competition modeled after the Challenge Cup, was created in 1927, an idea of Austrian Hugo Meile, and played between Central European clubs. In 1930, the Coupe des Nations, the first attempt to create a cup for national champion clubs of Europe, was played and organized by Swiss club Servette. Held in Geneva, it brought together 10 champions from across the continent. The tournament was won by Ujapest of Hungary. Latin European nations came together to form the Latin Cup in 1949. After receiving reports from his journalists over the highly successful South American Championship of Champions of 1948, Gabriel Hanot, editor of L'Équipe, began proposing the creation of a continent-wide tournament. In interviews, Jacques Ferrin said that the South American Championship of Champions was the inspiration for the European Champions Cup. After Stan Cullis declared Wolverhampton Wanderers champions of the world following a successful run of friendlies in the 1950s, in particular a 3-2 friendly victory against Budapest Honved, Hanot finally managed to convince UEFA to put into practice such a tournament. It was conceived in Paris in 1955 as the European Champion Clubs Cup. 1955–1967, beginnings. The first European Cup took place during the 1955–56 season. 16 teams participated: AC Milan, AGF Aarhus, Anderlecht, Djurgården, Guardia Warsaw, Hibernian, Partizan, PSV Eindhoven, Rapid Wien, Real Madrid, Rot-Weiss Essen, Saarbrücken, Servette, Sporting CP, Stade de Reims, and Voros Lobago. The first European Cup match took place on September 4, 1955, and ended in a 3-3 draw between Sporting CP and Partizan. The first goal in European Cup history was scored by João Baptista Martins of Sporting CP. The inaugural final took place at the Parc des Princes between Stade de Reims and Real Madrid on June 13, 1956. The Spanish squad came back from behind to win 4-3 thanks to goals from Alfredo Di Stefano and Marquitos, as well as 2 goals from Hector Real. Real Madrid successfully defended the trophy next season in their home stadium, the Santiago Bernabéu, against Fiorentina. After a scoreless first half, Real Madrid scored twice in 6 minutes to defeat the Italians. In 1958, Milan failed to capitalize after going ahead on the scoreline twice, only for Real Madrid to equalize. The final, held in Heysel Stadium, went to extra time where Francisco Gento scored the game-winning goal to allow Real Madrid to retain the title for the third consecutive season. In a rematch of the first final, Real Madrid faced Stade Reims at the Neckarstadion for the 1959 final, and won 2-0. West German side Eintracht Frankfurt became the first non-Latin team to reach the European Cup final. The 1960 final holds the record for the most goals scored, with Real Madrid beating Eintracht Frankfurt 7-3 in Hampden Park, courtesy of 4 goals by Ferenc Puskás and a hat-trick by Alfredo Di Stefano. This was Real Madrid's 5th consecutive title, a record that still stands today. Real Madrid's reign ended in the 1960-61 season when bitter rivals Barcelona dethroned them in the first round. Barcelona themselves, however, would be defeated in the final by Portuguese side Benfica 3-2 at Wankdorf Stadium. Reinforced by Eusebio, Benfica defeated Real Madrid 5-3 at the Olympic Stadium in Amsterdam and kept the title for a second consecutive season. Benfica wanted to repeat Real Madrid's successful run of the 1950s after reaching the showpiece event of the 1962-63 European Cup, but a brace from Brazilian-Italian José Altafini at the Wembley Stadium gave the spoils to Milan, making the trophy leave the Iberian Peninsula for the first time ever. Inter Milan beat an aging Real Madrid 3-1 in the Ernst-Happel-Stadion to win the 1963-64 season and replicate their local rivals' success. The title stayed in the city of Milan for the third year in a row after Inter beat Benfica 1-0 at their home ground, the San Siro. Under the leadership of Jock Stein, Scottish club Celtic defeated Inter Milan 2-1 in the 1967 final to become the first British club to win the European Cup. The Celtic players that day, all of whom were born within 30 miles of Glasgow, subsequently became known as the Lisbon Lions. 1968-1978. The 1967-68 season saw Manchester United become the first English team to win the European Cup, beating Benfica 4-1 in the final. This final came 10 years after the Munich air disaster, which claimed the lives of 8 United players and left their manager, Matt Busby, fighting for his life. In the 1968-69 season, Ajax became the first Dutch team to reach the European Cup final, but they were beaten by AC Milan 4-1, who claimed their second European Cup, with Pirino Prati scoring a hat-trick. The 1969-70 season saw the first Dutch winners of the competition. Rotterdam-based club Feyenoord knocked out the defending champions, Milan in the second round, before defeating Celtic in the final. In the 1970-71 season Ajax won the title, beating Greek side Panathinaikos in the final. The season saw a number of changes, with penalty shootouts being introduced, and the away goals rule being changed so that it would be used in all rounds except the final. It was also the first time a Greek team reached the final, as well as the first season that Real Madrid failed to qualify, having finished 6th in La Liga the previous season. Ajax would go on to win the competition 3 years in a row, which Bayern Munich would emulate from 1974 to 1976, before Liverpool won their first 2 titles in 1977 and 1978. Anthem. The UEFA Champions League anthem, officially titled simply as Champions League, was written by Tony Britton, and is an adaptation of George Frideric Handel's 1727 anthem Zadok the Priest. UEFA commissioned Britton in 1992 to arrange an anthem, and the piece was performed by London's Royal Philharmonic Orchestra and sung by the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields. Stating the anthem is now almost as iconic as the trophy, UEFA's official website adds it is known to set the hearts of many of the world's top footballers aflutter. The chorus contains the 3 official languages used by UEFA, English, German, and French. The climactic moment is set to the exclamations Die Meister, Die Besten, Les Grandes Équipes, the champions. The anthem's chorus is played before each UEFA Champions League game as the two teams are lined up, as well as at the beginning and end of television broadcasts of the matches. In addition to the anthem, there is also entrance music, which contains parts of the anthem itself, which is played as teams enter the field. The complete anthem is about 3 minutes long, and has 2 short verses and the chorus. Special vocal versions have been performed live at the Champions League final with lyrics in other languages, changing over to the host nation's language for the chorus. These versions were performed by Andrea Bocelli, Juan Diego Flores, All Angels, Jonas Kaufmann, and David Garrett, and Marisa. In the 2013 final at Wembley Stadium, the chorus was played twice. In the 2018 and 2019 finals, held in Kyiv and Madrid respectively, the instrumental version of the chorus was played, by 2 cellos and Asturia girls. The anthem has been released commercially in its original version on iTunes and Spotify with the title of Champions League Theme. In 2018, composer Hans Zimmer remixed the anthem with rapper Vince Staples for EA Sports video game FIFA 19, with it also featuring in the game's reveal trailer. Branding. In 1991, UEFA asked its commercial partner, Television Event and Media Marketing, to help brand the Champions League. This resulted in the anthem, house colors of black and white or silver and a logo, and the star ball. The star ball was created by Design Bridge, a London-based firm selected by Team after a competition. Team gives particular attention to detail in how the colors and star ball are depicted at matches. According to Team, irrespective of whether you are a spectator in Moscow or Milan, you will always see the same stadium dressing materials, the same opening ceremony featuring the star ball center circle ceremony, and hear the same UEFA Champions League anthem. Based on research it conducted, Team concluded that by 1999, the Starball logo had achieved a recognition rate of 94% among fans. Format. Qualification. The UEFA Champions League begins with a double round-robin group stage of 32 teams, which since the 2009-10 season is preceded by 2 qualification streams for teams that do not receive direct entry to the tournament proper. The 2 streams are divided between teams qualified by virtue of being league champions, and those qualified by virtue of finishing second or third in their national championship. The number of teams that each association enters into the UEFA Champions League is based upon the UEFA coefficients of the member associations. These coefficients are generated by the results of clubs representing each association during the previous 5 Champions League and UEFA Cup/Europa League seasons. The higher an association's coefficient, the more teams represent the association in the Champions League, and the fewer qualification rounds the association's teams must compete in. 4 of the remaining 6 qualifying places are granted to the winners of a 6-round qualifying tournament between the remaining 43 or 44 national champions, within which those champions from associations with higher coefficients receive byes to later rounds. The other 2 are granted to the winners of a 3-round qualifying tournament between 10-11 clubs from the associations ranked 5-6 through 15, which have qualified based upon finishing second or third in their respective national league. In addition to sporting criteria, any club must be licensed by its national association to participate in the Champions League. To obtain a license, the club must meet certain stadium, infrastructure, and finance requirements. In 2005-06, Liverpool and Art Media Bratislava became the first teams to reach the Champions League group stage after playing in all 3 qualifying rounds. Real Madrid and Barcelona hold the record for the most appearances in the group stage, having qualified 25 times. Followed by Porto and Bayern on 24. Between 1999 and 2008, no differentiation was made between champions and non-champions in qualification. The 16 top-ranked teams spread across the biggest domestic leagues qualified directly for the tournament group stage. Prior to this, 3 preliminary knockout qualifying rounds whittled down the remaining teams, with teams starting in different rounds. An exception to the usual European qualification system happened in 2005, after Liverpool won the Champions League the year before, but did not finish in a Champions League qualification place in the Premier League that season. UEFA gave special dispensation for Liverpool to enter the Champions League, giving England 5 qualifiers. UEFA subsequently ruled that the defending champions qualify for the competition the following year regardless of their domestic league placing. However, for those leagues with 4 entrants in the Champions League, this meant that, if the Champions League winner fell outside of its domestic league's top 4, it would qualify at the expense of the 4th-placed team in the league. Until 2015-16, no association could have more than 4 entrants in the Champions League. In May 2012, Tottenham Hotspur finished 4th in the 2011-12 Premier League, 2 places ahead of Chelsea, but failed to qualify for the 2012-13 Champions League, after Chelsea won the 2012 final. Tottenham were demoted to the 2012-13 UEFA Europa League. In May 2013, it was decided that, starting from the 2015-16 season, the winners of the previous season's UEFA Europa League would qualify for the UEFA Champions League, entering at least the playoff round, and entering the group stage if the berth reserved for the Champions League title holders was not used. The previous limit of a maximum of 4 teams per association was increased to 5, meaning that a 4th-placed team from one of the top 3 ranked associations would only have to be moved to the Europa League if both the Champions League and Europa League winners came from that association and both finished outside the top 4 of their domestic league. In 2007, Michel Platini, the UEFA president, had proposed taking 1 place from the 3 leagues with 4 entrants and allocating it to that nation's cup winners. This proposal was rejected in a vote at a UEFA Strategy Council meeting. In the same meeting, however, it was agreed that the 3rd-placed team in the top 3 leagues would receive automatic qualification for the group stage, rather than entry into the 3rd qualifying round, while the 4th-placed team would enter the playoff round for non-champions, guaranteeing an opponent from one of the top 15 leagues in Europe. This was part of Platini's plan to increase the number of teams qualifying directly into the group stage, while simultaneously increasing the number of teams from lower-ranked nations in the group stage. In 2012, Arsene Wenger referred to qualifying for the Champions League by finishing in the top 4 places in the English Premier League as the 4th-place trophy. The phrase was coined after a pre-match conference when he was questioned about Arsenal's lack of a trophy after exiting the FA Cup. He said the first trophy is to finish in the top 4. At Arsenal's 2012 AGM, Wenger was also quoted as saying, "For me there are 5 trophies every season: Premier League, Champions League, the 3rd is to qualify for the Champions League." Group stage and knockout phase. The tournament proper begins with a group stage of 32 teams, divided into 8 groups of 4. Seeding is used whilst making the draw for this stage, whilst teams from the same nation may not be drawn into groups together. Each team plays 6 group stage games, meeting the other 3 teams in its group home and away in a round-robin format. The winning team and the runners-up from each group then progress to the next round. The 3rd-placed team enters the UEFA Europa League. For the next stage, the last 16, the winning team from one group plays against the runners-up from another group, and teams from the same association may not be drawn against each other. From the quarter-finals onwards, the draw is entirely random, without association protection. The group stage is played from September to December, whilst the knockout stage starts in February. The knockout ties are played in a 2-legged format, with the exception of the final. The final is typically held in the last 2 weeks of May, or in the early days of June, which has happened in 3 consecutive odd-numbered years since 2015. In the 2019-20 season, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the tournament was suspended for 5 months. The format of the remainder of the tournament was temporarily amended as a result, with the quarter-finals and semi-finals being played as single-match knockout ties at neutral venues in Lisbon, Portugal in the summer, with the final taking place on August 23. Distribution. The following is the default access list. Changes will be made to the access list above if the Champions League or Europa League title holders qualify for the tournament via their domestic leagues. If the Champions League title holders qualify for the group stage via their domestic league, the champions of Association 11 enters the group stage, and champions of the highest-ranked associations in earlier rounds are also promoted accordingly. If the Europa League title holders qualify for the group stage via their domestic league, the third-placed team of Association 5 enter the group stage, and runners-up of the highest-ranked associations in the second qualifying round are also promoted accordingly. If the Champions League or Europa League title holders qualify for the qualifying rounds via their domestic league, their spot in the qualifying rounds is vacated, and teams of the highest-ranked associations in earlier rounds are promoted accordingly. An association may have a maximum of 5 teams in the Champions League. Therefore, if both the Champions League and Europa League title holders come from the same top 4 association and finish outside of the top 4 of their domestic league, the 4th-placed team of the league will not compete in the Champions League and will instead compete in the Europa League. Prizes. Trophy and medals. Each year, the winning team is presented with the European Champion Clubs Cup, the current version of which has been awarded since 1967. From the 1968-69 season and prior to the 2008-09 season, any team that won the Champions League 3 years in a row or 5 times overall was awarded the official trophy permanently. Each time a club achieved this, a new official trophy had to be forged for the following season. 5 clubs own a version of the official trophy: Real Madrid, Ajax, Bayern Munich, Milan, and Liverpool. Since 2008, the official trophy has remained with UEFA and the clubs are awarded a replica. The current trophy is 74 cm tall and made of silver, weighing 11 kg. It was designed by Jörg Stadelmann, a jeweler from Bern, Switzerland, after the original was given to Real Madrid in 1966 in recognition of their 6 titles to date, and cost 10,000 Swiss francs. As of the 2012-13 season, 40 gold medals are presented to the Champions League winners, and 40 silver medals to the runners-up. Prize money. As of 2021-22, the fixed amount of prize money paid to the clubs is as follows. Play-off round, €5 million. Base fee for group stage, €15,640,000. Group match victory, €2,800,000. Group match draw, €900,000. Round of 16, €9,600,000. Quarter-finals, €10,600,000. Semi-finals, €12,500,000. Runners-up, €15,500,000. Champions, Euro 20,000,000. This means that, at best, a club can earn €85,140,000 of prize money under this structure, not counting shares of the qualifying rounds, play-off round, or the market pool. A large part of the distributed revenue from the UEFA Champions League is linked to the market pool, the distribution of which is determined by the value of the television market in each nation. For the 2014-15 season, Juventus, who were the runners-up, earned nearly €89.1 million in total, of which €30.9 million was prize money, compared with the €61.0 million earned by Barcelona, who won the tournament and were awarded €36.4 million in prize money. Sponsorship. Like the FIFA World Cup, the UEFA Champions League is sponsored by a group of multinational corporations, in contrast to the single main sponsor typically found in national top-flight leagues. When the Champions League was created in 1992, it was decided that a maximum of 8 companies should be allowed to sponsor the event, with each corporation being allocated 4 advertising boards around the perimeter of the pitch, as well as logo placement at pre- and post-match interviews and a certain number of tickets to each match. This, combined with a deal to ensure tournament sponsors were given priority on television advertisements during matches, ensured that each of the tournament's main sponsors was given maximum exposure. From the 2012-13 knockout phase, UEFA used LED advertising hoardings installed in knockout participant stadiums, including the final stage. From the 2015-16 season onwards, UEFA has used such hoardings from the playoff round until the final. The tournament's main sponsors for the 2021-24 cycle are Apo, FedEx, Turkish Airlines, Heineken N.V. Heineken, Heineken Silver, Just Eat Takeaway 10 bis, Menulog, Bistro, Just Eat, Denmark, France, Ireland, Italy, Spain, Switzerland, United Kingdom, Lieferando, Pisn, Grubhub and Seamless, Skip the Dishes, Takeaway, Thuisbezorgd, MasterCard, PepsiCo Pepsi, Pepsi Max, Lay's, Smith's, Walkers, Ruffles, Chipsy, Rockstar, Sony PlayStation 5. Socios.com. Adidas is a secondary sponsor and supplies the official match ball, the Adidas Finale, and Macron supplies the referee's kit. Hublet is also a secondary sponsor as the official 4th official board of the competition. Individual clubs may wear jerseys with advertising. However, only 2 sponsorships are permitted per jersey in addition to that of the kit manufacturer, at the chest and the left sleeve. Exceptions are made for non-profit organizations, which can feature on the front of the shirt, incorporated with the main sponsor or in place of it, or on the back, either below the squad number or on the collar area. If a club plays a match in a nation where the relevant sponsorship category is restricted, then they must remove that logo from their jerseys. For example, when Rangers played French side Auxerre in the 1996-97 Champions League, they wore the logo of Center Parcs instead of McEwen's Lager. Media coverage. The competition attracts an extensive television audience, not just in Europe, but throughout the world. The final of the tournament has been, in recent years, the most watched annual sporting event in the world. The final of the 2012-13 tournament had the competition's highest TV ratings to date, drawing approximately 360 million television viewers. Team records and statistics. Performances by club. Performances by nation. Notes. Player records. Most appearances. As of November 2, 2022, players that are still active in Europe are highlighted in boldface. The table below does not include appearances made in the qualification stage of the competition. Most goals. As of November 2, 2022, indicates the player was from the European Cup era. Players that are taking part in the 2022-23 UEFA Champions League are highlighted in boldface. The table below does not include goals scored in the qualification stage of the competition. Notes.